Hello, hello, hello. Hooligan Soccer podcast coming at you with the Qooligan wearing his Dutch outfit just in time for the international break, which is very appropriate as well
Netherlands. Yep.
with the Netherlands. So we've got an interesting agenda for you guys today. There is so much going on around the world of soccer. However, there is a kind of all the sort of usual programming has been interrupted by the international break, and also some of the MLS teams have lost some players as well. So we're going to cover off, just touch on the Carabao Cup update, Carabao Cup final, and then also touch on a new cup that I'm newly aware of, and the Qooligan is more of an aficionado, and he's going to be explaining it on the Open Cup. Is that what it is?
The Lamar Hunt US
Yes,
Open Cup.
Cup, wonderful. Okay,
Gary.
another
Let's
tournament.
let's get the branding right.
Oh, there's CONMEBOL, CONCACAF. There's a whole bunch of them as well, and then also we're going to touch on.
I know you have a habit of confusing CONMEBOL and CONCACAF. Let's see if you can get it right in this one.
They just need to fucking merge and just create a super tournament as well and make a load of money out of it.
Nah,
as well.
I mean, please,
it's coming.
You seriously? I mean, CONMEBOL is so. They have it so good. It's not even funny.
They have it so good. Anyway, well, we'll get into that a little bit.
They do have it so good, and I'll explain why.
And then we have also as well a whole bunch of international fixtures, a whole bunch of qualifiers as well for the World Cup, which is starting, which is also going to be interesting. US, obviously Pochettino in the US has his first real competitive game as well. And then also another Chelsea manager, Thomas Tuchel, is taking over England for the first time. We have a German managing an English team as well, which is causing a little bit of sensational stuff. Anyway,
seriously, you Limeys have got to get over that.
Oh, it's a sensitive topic. It's a sensitive topic.
Please, hello. Occupied for 4 years. Think we know.
Anyway, well, let's get it. We'll save that for the back end. That's where the salty Qooligan will really come out as well, which I'm looking forward to seeing. So Qooligan, I know you dropped a great article on Liverpool the other day, obviously with their shock loss to Newcastle. We kind of went into that expecting Liverpool to sort of, I think I even said I cannot see Newcastle winning it. So just to show that lucky it's not a betting podcast, because you would have lost a lot of money if you'd listened to me. But Liverpool just, they were off. I had it on. I was curious about it because I thought they were going to go and dominate it. My brother is an avid Liverpool fan, so I was actually just throwing lots of WhatsApp abuse at him as well, which was quite fun. But they just did not seem to be at it. They were just kind of, have those days where you just, you have it with teams and you see that where you're just not on it. You're not 100%. And I think they had one of those days and the occasion got to them. And Newcastle, to be fair, won their first trophy in a very, very long time. And Liverpool,
fair play to Newcastle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 1955. That's a long time to wait.
That is a long time. That is. They did. I don't think that's strictly true, because when they got
relegated, you couldn't buy eggs and bacon in England at the time. But Newcastle last lifted its trophy. We're still on our meat rationing.
Rationing was still in full effect, wasn't it? As well, you're allowed an ounce of butter.
Sure, you were allowed like maybe a half pound of tea a week.
That's
I don't know how you survived.
It is a questionable one. It is. It is questionable. But yeah, so Newcastle won again. Is this Liverpool sort of the wheels coming off a little bit? I mean, they really would have to blow up exponentially to then lose the Premier League as well, because that looks nailed on. Maybe they've done just enough. But as you put in your article as well, like the FA Cup slipped away from them, the Champions League slipped away from them. They were on for 4 trophies about 2 months ago, and now they're down to 1. And boo-hoo, they're probably going to win the Premier League, but it could happen. I know it's in their hands, but it was a shock result, I have to say. It really was.
I think there's going to be a certain percentage of the Liverpudlian fan base that is nervous, and they might have some reason to be. I've been saying it the whole time. I don't see Liverpool bottling it that bad, but I said that about the last 2 trophies as well, and look what happened. So, sure. I mean, it's possible. The magic number is 6 now, if I'm not mistaken.
6 games with 10 to go, right?
I think it's 6 games because they beat Southampton. It was 7 before. Now it's 6.
Yeah.
And they've got 9, and there's 9 fixtures remaining.
9.
So, yeah, it would have to be a spectacular collapse.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening. That said, it could happen. Yeah, and it calls into question a couple of things, right? And the main one is how secure and how deep is Liverpool's roster really? We've always thought, oh wow, Slot's doing such a great job. He's managing all the players. He's doing this. He's doing that. But there are now significant issues and questions around some of the people who are in, occupying seats in that dugout. You're like, are they the right person? Maybe they should have been proactive in going out and picking anybody that wasn't Chiesa, who has been a complete bomb out, if you ask my opinion.
Yep.
He's been a non-issue. Darwin Nunez has had a collapse that is just it's unpleasant to watch. I mean, he's such a fiery and feisty and charismatic figure on the pitch. Just to see him completely and utterly fall apart week after week after week is just it's not pretty to watch.
I don't think he's had the collapse. I wouldn't say. I just think he never rose and was never actually sort of lived up to the hype and the expectation of him as well. I mean, remember there was that crazy miss a few weeks ago where you were saying your son wanted to fly over to Liverpool specifically just to punch in because he missed a sitter, and it's a
good thing that I don't indulge my child in these whims, because I'd have him be flying back and forth to Liverpool to punch that poor guy in the nut multiple times in the last few weeks. I would be bankrupt.
I think the good news is that Saudi offer is probably still on the table, maybe at a slightly reduced price as well. But I don't see Darwin Nunez staying at Liverpool. And by all the rumors going around that they're sort of going to try and chase Alvarez and Isak and
Isak. I've heard Isak is the big draw, and that would make perfect sense. Boy, he would really all puns aside, he would slot into to their method of playing perfectly.
It would. But if Newcastle, well, again, we'll see if Newcastle want to let him go, they can charge a lot for him. Okay. Well done, Newcastle. Obviously, Carabao Cup champions. So congratulations to them and all their fan base. Wonderful to see that happen again. And this is something we've talked about before as well. Is just, again, you're not having the same repetitive teams now coming in and doing it. There is a little bit of diversity coming in here. It's not like the Champions League as you were ranting on about last time. But yeah, it's good to see them shake it up and sort of have it spread around a lot as well.
I do prefer the verb pontificating, but ranting will work too.
That's definitely, I would call this pontification from your side. It's definitely ranting, salty ranting. That's how I would put it. Okay, Qooligan, let's move on. And so now you want to share, and you are going to talk more about the US Open Lamar Hunt Cup. So
the Lamar Hunt US Open Cup.
Wow,
it's the proper name, which we will now hitherforth refer to as the US Open Cup.
The US Open Cup. So,
and that's to distinguish it from the US Open, which is a golf tournament.
Well, this is
and if you do not make that distinction, you will find yourself confusing the SEO and the search engines, and everybody gets angry.
The golfing community will find ourselves on Hooligan Soccer reading about the US Open as well, which is
that kicks off today, ladies and gentlemen. March 18th is the first round of the Open Cup proper.
Okay.
There have been already 4 different qualifying rounds, and for those who don't know, this is the US, the American, specifically American equivalent of the English FA Cup. In that all clubs are theoretically eligible to participate in this competition. You do have to qualify. And so they go all the way back to 2024. They start doing the qualification rounds in the lower leagues. And that would be, for example, the UPSL, the NPSL. These are below the 4 pyramids of U.S. soccer, right? So obviously you have your Division 1 MLS, your Division 2 USL Championship, Division 3 USL 1, and Division 4 USL 2, as well as MLS Next Pro, which exists in a gray area between 3 and 4. It's sort of its own deal, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Your top pyramid. Then below that, you have your NPSL and your UPSL. And for example, the UPSL consists of 400 teams in 30 divisions. So this is a massive, and a lot of people just don't know this, right? This is a massive amount of of commitment players. It is a profit league, right? There is promotion, there is relegation. So this is a legit series of competitions that happen, year round. And so these groups that go through these qualifying stages, right? They've already played, some of them played 3-4 games to make it here and to come in. There are 64 teams in this round, right? So 64 teams have made it. Those 64 teams will play single elimination matches and then proceed on and then go into a next round in April 1st. That'll be the second round, in which those 32 surviving teams will whittle it down to 16. Then we start seeing the introduction of higher tier teams. That's where the interesting thing starts, right? So very much like the FA.
Yeah.
The higher your tier, you get a bye. You don't have to go through the rigmarole of the earlier rounds.
Got it.
That makes sense to you, Gary?
It makes complete sense as well.
There
So we're really at the early innings as well. So again, do you think there is that possibility as well where you could have one of these teams going on a bit of a cup run as well and sort of getting some good results from back to back and then finding themselves? And again, obviously the MLS teams will be introduced to it. At which round is it? Is it the
MLS teams? Not all MLS teams participate, and this is where it's so this was an interesting thing that happened last year. Was the head of the MLS, Garber, right, basically said, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." Okay, I'm going to be flat out. He was an ass about it. All right, he said, "No, we don't have to have all." And MLS teams can choose whether they wish to qualify, to put themselves in the running or not. There are 16 that have chosen to do so out of the 30. Right. So obviously, like a team like the Seattle Sounders, and I don't know, to be blunt, and I'm not prepared for this, Gary. Seattle Sounders, I think, said no to the Open Cup because they're competing inside the FIFA Club World Cup as well as the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yep. Adding
yet another competition in would completely and utterly overburden their schedule. So that's a legit. I mean, I could see that. You've got player concerns, you've got player fatigue, right? Player health to take into consideration. Fine, whatever.
Financial concerns as well will obviously be a big factor of that as well, because the prize money, I imagine, is not going to be anywhere near the CONCACAF Champions Cup or the World Club Cup.
No,
right?
well, certainly not for an MLS club. No.
Yeah.
But for other teams, no, it can make big. But there are 16 MLS teams that will come in during the round of 32. Some USL Championship teams, based upon their standings, got put down into the first round. Some got buys into the third round. And so there's, so basically the top 16 USL Championship teams got a bye. Okay. The bottom 8 have to go out and battle it out.
Okay.
In the first round.
I'm not seeing your beloved Oakland Roots.
No, they're not, because they are. So despite what you may think, Gary, based on their form in the first 2 games of the season, they did finish in the top 16. So they have a bye.
Okay.
So they will not be playing. They will not be playing in this first round.
Okay. And then, just out of curiosity, this is the real litmus test of how much Americans care about this. Where can you watch it, or is it available to watch?
Damn good question, G. Yeah. Damn good question. You managed to find one that I didn't have the answer to.
Someone has not done their homework. Someone has not done their homework.
Son of a gun.
Well, while you're frantically Googling there and asking Gemini to answer that question for you, the Lamar Hunt Cup. This guy, Lamar Hunt.
I don't use character. AI. I'm going to be very clear.
Do you know who? I don't do you know anything? Do you know who about this Lamar Hunt? Do you know who he is? Yes. Can I just give you a quick little intro? So this guy
you can give me a quick little intro, but I already know who he is. But please give it up. Okay, give it up for the listeners.
So Lamar Hunt Sr., born in August 1932, he was a principal founder of the AFL.
Literally just reading out.
Of course, Wikipedia. Because there's so much as well. There's no way I'm memorizing all of this. This guy, listen to this, okay? He founded the AFL. He was the principal founder of the MLS. He was the principal founder of the NASL, the North American Soccer League. He was also the co-founder of the World Tennis Championship. He was also the founder of the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFL and the Kansas City Wizards of the MSL. And at the time of his death, and I'm just reading off Wikipedia here, so I can't be accused of plagiarism. He was also the owner of 2 MLS teams, Columbus Crew and FC Dallas.
That's correct.
And then the other fascinating thing as well about this, when I'm not reading about soccer and sort of obviously doing all of those things, I am a keen keen student of economic history. And he was one half of the Hunt brothers. And if you don't know who the Hunt brothers are, they are the two brothers in the 70s who tried to corner the silver market by basically buying up all the silver and basically trying to sort of get the prices sky high, and then they'd own all of it. Anyway, the Federal Reserve had to come in and they actually broke the silver market, and these guys lost a shit ton of money. But wow, this guy is interesting. What a fascinating.
I got to say,
that is.
Firstly, Gary, I didn't know that about the cornering of the silver market. So I learned something today from you, and have to say thanks. No, seriously, that was like, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cornered the silver market in the 1970s.
Yeah.
That's like some serious 19th century robber baron shit, man. I love
crazy,
it.
Crazy fucking shit. Yeah. This crazy. I'll share some stuff for it as well on the background. But yeah, 1979, they tried to basically corner it on the COMEX, and they just cranked the price up at the time to something like $50, which at the time was an insane amount, and everyone was freaking out and had knock-on effects, and the government had to step in and kill these guys. Not literally, but obviously just in terms of sort of their trading.
Yes, the government did not kill them.
And they did it by, they banned like further purchase, or they did something where you couldn't short it or something like that. And it was, anyway, these guys are fascinating. What wild characters. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Love for sports and then manipulating financial markets as well. Hey, wow. Interesting. Okay. Crazy. So if you had a chance to eat, so where
looking it up.
Okay, so if I'm going to guess anywhere,
it does not look like it is streaming on any major players that I can tell, but I will say that local television may be doing a lot of coverage on this at this level.
Yeah,
it's going to be tricky.
It's I can imagine.
There are some of these stadiums where they're playing are literally just like college, they're just college fields.
It's Sunday league almost in a way, right? So there's not going to be just sort of production equipment to get it there as well, right? So,
I mean, you can tell because when you go on any of the major sports sites, they don't have crests for the teams.
Yeah.
That's a sign that these guys are not high up on the. They're not big on the sporting radar, right? At all.
Yeah, clearly.
I don't think most people know, right? They're not going to be familiar with the New Jersey Alliance FC.
Yeah, that's fair. So you could, I mean, if Hooligan gets big enough, we could launch our own soccer team and then essentially enter them into the MLS Cup through qualification and try and get a cup run together. Is that is essentially what could happen here in a further?
Not at my age, Gary, but I do appreciate the sentiment.
Hey, if you're running 5 miles a match with your refereeing as well, we can put a ball on the end of it and see some magic happen.
A very different type of scenario, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, so anyway, this is exciting times for people who follow the grassroots of American soccer. There are some really good fixtures, I think, that are coming up. Look to the site. There should be an article coming in for each day's worth of fixtures with some selections, but ones that stand out in particular today. I've got 2 big upsets coming in, Gary. Hartford Athletic and Miami FC of the USL Championship, both of whom are not great teams, either historically or even this year, are both playing underdogs, either UPSL or NASL underdogs, and could be toppled.
Okay.
And there is precedent for this. So last year, they're one of my favorite clubs that I like to follow in this particular fixture is the El Farolitos out of San Francisco, which is named after a chain of burrito restaurants. They are famous for the Mission Burrito, Gary, which you probably know.
El Farolito.
El Farolito. They have a soccer team, Gary. You probably didn't know that, but
look at that. So if the burrito store can have a soccer team, why can't we?
That's right. So they beat the Portland Timbers reserve team last year and went and took on the Oakland Roots. I was at that game.
Okay.
Brought them to extra time, where the Roots did win in extra time. If I recall correctly, it was a young academy player named Ilya Alexiev who came on as a substitute, who scored the game winner for Oakland Roots. It was his first goal, beating El Farolito. And I'll tell you something, Farolito played them hard. They were a real rough and tumble, hard scramble group of players. Lots of physicality. And so they're back in it.
Yeah.
There's another San Francisco club, interestingly called International San Francisco. Now, this one's interesting because the oldest continuous soccer club in the country, Gary, is in San Francisco, and it's called the
Okay.
SFSFL.
Okay.
And the Inter San Francisco team won their league. And at the time of the foundation of the U.S. Open, they were one of the biggest like groups and organized groups around. So they have an automatic berth for the
Okay.
winner of their league only
Okay.
gets
Yeah.
into the cup.
Okay.
So let's
Interesting.
go. Good luck to Inter San Francisco. They have to travel down to Monterey Bay.
Okay.
One interesting thing about the Open Cup is in these early rounds, everything is kind of geolocated, right? So the United States being so massive,
Yeah.
you
They're going to play
can't have a
locally.
team
Yeah.
from Maine playing a team from San Diego. The travel
Yeah.
costs alone would bankrupt the club, right? So they do limit all of the fixtures to within a particular geographic area. This is great for a couple of reasons. One, it means you've got derby scenarios. So the biggest one that I'm actually really excited about, it's on at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, is Tulsa Athletic playing FC Tulsa.
Okay.
So Tulsa Athletic is in USL 2 and FC Tulsa is in USL Championship. These are true local derby teams that have played each other twice before in the cup and split the difference. So
Okay.
that's going to be a fiery one. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen there.
Fine.
And then, look it up, people, because, you've got like Inter San Francisco, Monterey Bay. That's classics. You've got, let's see, Birmingham Legion playing the Little Rock Rangers, right? So you've got an
Okay.
Alabama team facing off
Against
against an Arkansas
Arkansas.
team.
Yeah.
The Richmond Kickers are taking on Virginia.
Okay.
Virginia
Okay.
Dream FC of the UPSL, if I'm not mistaken. The fantastically named New York Pancyprian Freedoms, they won some kind of obscure competition to get themselves in. They get to play FC Cincinnati's backup team. Okay. So yeah, no, it's going to be good. I'm really excited for it. And I think that, for the true soccer fan who likes to see this type of grassroots stuff, this is the one to go for.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. Great stuff. No, this is, this is the beautiful thing about what I'm finding on this journey of sort of going through this process and this podcast and working with you as well is just like getting closer to sort of, American soccer as it sort of continues to grow. And obviously sort of, the attention on it sort of increases as well. And sort of, again, seeing these narratives, seeing these, and again, as always, that happens with these, I find is you will find that there will be a couple of teams that will get a run together and get quite deep into this competition, and there will be a story behind it, and also as well there'll be some interesting players as well that will come out of it, and probably hopefully sort of be able to advance their career and get some paydays out of it as well. So that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, the Pancyprian Freedoms, they're not even professional. That's a 100% amateur club that won the National Amateur Cup. That's how they got themselves in there.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Okay. Anything else on the Lamar Hunt US Open Cup? But that was
just go out and watch it, people.
Go
Seriously.
out and watch it and support it as well and talk about it. Absolutely. Okay. Well, speaking of the US, obviously there is also the semifinal. I think Pochettino has, I believe, going to the US men's national team now, has his first competitive match, which is the semifinal of the CONCACAF Nations Cup against Panama on Thursday nights. I believe they're playing in LA. And then the other side of the bracket as well as Canada against Mexico. So you've got like a real sort of, again, how is this?
Same old of CONCACAF. I mean, it's like,
Who Cares Cup? The Who Cares
I mean, you
Cup?
could swap Costa Rica for Panama pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can swap Jamaica in for the United States, depending on this, that, or the other thing. But yeah, no, I mean, that's normal. Seems appropriate.
Yeah. So so they've got them. I know there's yeah. So Poch is going to be sort of playing against his team as well, playing against Panama as well, and we'll see how that happens again. I think he's picked sort of a pretty strong squad, and they can go through. And then of course, depending on how things go, obviously they will have the final further down the line. I was also just looking as well, which is interesting as well. The US have what I was looking at is just looking at the US's schedule coming up because we've got the March, we've got obviously the international fixtures. The US are going to be playing against Turkey in June and then against Switzerland as well. So they've got a whole bunch of friendlies going on as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and how they get through there. My expectation is that the US probably get through Panama. Again, if you'd listened to our previous comments on the Carabao Cup and Newcastle getting rolled over by Liverpool, we were dead wrong. So obviously we're not going to underwrite that one completely, but you think US would probably get through that one and then get through to the final and have Canada or Mexico, probably Mexico.
No, I would agree with that assessment, Gary. It's that's a squad. While there have been some injuries that allowed the door to open for some players that you wouldn't normally have considered, I do think overall it is a solid team, and while Panama is no pushover, they should be managed, and this should be a game that the U.S. can manage.
Yeah, that should be good. Yeah, and then the other international fixture. Well, so while we've got the US against Panama, the other one that I'm following, obviously with my English heritage as well, is we have obviously Thomas Tuchel, former Chelsea manager, also like Poch, like Matt, US's manager, managing England for the first time in a World Cup qualifier, and they're playing against Albania on Friday.
And that's well, I mean, this is UEFA's kicking off. So the whole World Cup qualification starts now. This is the week.
Yeah.
There are some confederations that are already deep into it, right? But UEFA's just kicking off.
Yeah. And so they'll get through it. And again, like looking at just like the groups, the way they've structured it, they're going to have, again, the World Cup in 26 is going to be even larger, as I understand, in terms of the number of participants than 22. So again, there is often it's just sort of referred to as kind of like a dilution of it because they're sort of expanding it. I know it can be used as the argument of it's more inclusive. But what happens in these kind of tournaments all of a sudden is, again, similar to how we were just talking about with the US Open Cup, is you're going to have some teams that are going to cause some upsets and going to surprise you and get in there as well. And there's these wonderful narratives that come out about it. So,
one thing I will say that I like about the expanded format is that it finally, for the first time ever in history, gave Oceania a guaranteed spot.
Mm-hmm.
So Oceania had always been like the excluded stepchild of the confederations because they were never. The winner of Oceania would have to play the 7th place team of CONMEBOL, which is what continent, Gary?
CONMEBOL is South America. Is that correct?
There we go. Got it.
CONCACAF North America, CONMEBOL South America.
There
right?
we go.
Yes,
exactly.
There we go. Okay.
So, and that was obviously not necessarily fair, but they've got a guarantee. And in fact, this weekend, Oceania is going to determine who their World Cup qualifier is. And it's being held in Wellington. There are 4 teams that are still standing out of the Oceanic qualification process.
Yeah.
You've got New Zealand playing Fiji in one quarterfinal or semifinal. Then you have Tahiti playing New Caledonia in the other.
Wow.
The odds-on favorites are that New Zealand and Tahiti will advance. Tahiti actually has become, in the last 10 years, a fairly strong nation. They did qualify for, I believe, the FIFA U20 World Cup, and did not do well, as poorly as people probably expected them to. They're very, very strong in beach soccer.
Yeah.
And in fact, the star of the Tahitian team does both futsal and beach soccer and field soccer. So he's a triple threat in that regard.
Oh, okay.
And I believe not only is he on the team, but there's, I think 3 of the other players are his cousins. So it's a very family affair. But anyway, yeah, and either way, one of these teams is going to make history by being the first oceanic pure qualifier, right? Whether that be, Fiji, New Zealand, New Caledonia, or Tahiti. But the loser, which is the loser of the finals match, actually gets put into the FIFA World Cup playoff round, which is something also new.
Okay.
That for qualifiers, you get automatic qualification to the World Cup. But if you do just well enough during your qualification rounds, there's going to be this big old pile of playoff games that happen where everybody tries to scrap it out for the remaining spots to make up the 48 teams that are in the World Cup this year.
In the World Cup
next year.
One quick question that just comes to mind then is, if they're doing the Oceania, is Australia? I'm assuming they're not classified in the Oceania Federation. They're in
Australia
Asia?
moved years ago, about 10, 12 years ago. Australia moved to Asia.
Okay,
because they were tired of constantly having to play in to the World Cup.
Yeah,
when they thought that they could win the Asian round, so they switched confederations.
But it's interesting. Okay, so you think
not just necessarily working out for them this year, by the way. Just saying.
the Asian continent has definitely got stronger in terms of soccer for sure as well. I mean, I think of China aren't bad. South Korea are obviously always very good.
Actually, China's not even the strong one China's not even the strong one this year. Hold on, I have some notes on this. Surprisingly surprising.
Look at this. You are prepared. You have done some homework as well, which is it's good to see.
I did have notes. I'm trying to figure out.
Well, the other thing as well, then, that for me, then the natural sort of thought would just be sort of New Zealand are probably the red hot favorites then to qualify through that group, through that region, just because obviously the largest population. They have obviously your beloved Chris Wood from Nottingham Forest as well, who's there able to bang in a bunch of goals as well. Just while we're bouncing around and talking about World Cup qualifiers, I was looking at the CONMEBOL qualifiers and league. And the one thing that just strikes me as strange is that Argentina are top of the league or top of the group in it. There's 10 of them in it, but Argentina being defending champions get an automatic qualification. So why are they're making, obviously, again, I get it's TV money, it's Messi, it's sort of the star, but they're making Argentina go through the process of playing these games and essentially taking points off.
Remember this, Gary, they also only have 10 teams.
Yeah, well, then they'd have 9 this time, right?
Well, I think it's, how many of those teams actually end up making it into the World Cup out of 10?
Yeah, I think it's 4, isn't it, as well? I think they get
6.
4. Is it 6? Jesus,
it's
wow.
6.
Jesus.
It is without a doubt the biggest joke in terms of competition. It's late.
Okay.
And it really needs to be examined, because I'm not saying that they're not good teams and they don't have quality. We all know that South American countries can produce quality players and produce quality teams. But for 60% of a confederation to qualify in, and the 7th still gets a chance.
And they go through the knockouts, right? Yeah.
Right? They can go through knockouts. That's not right.
Wow.
It's not right.
Well, that's true. So, and then how are they all determined? It means that
Brazil can basically field a team of 12-year-olds and probably still end up just making it. It's just,
and that's what they do sometimes as well. Like sometimes for these matches as well, they play homegrown players or sort of Brazil-based players. They'll pick a sort of a Seleção Brazil-based players, and so that the internationals don't have to travel in that.
But you should be aware there is still a chance, right? I mean, there's 2 games in this. There's 2 games that are happening this weekend. Brazil have to play Colombia and Argentina. Those are not guaranteed wins, right? It used to be a time that you would say Brazil would be favored in both those matches. That is not the case anymore. Bolivia, who is the next threatening team. So Brazil's in 5th place right now. They have a 5-point lead over Bolivia. Bolivia is the only other team that can make any threat on them. Mm-hmm. Bolivia will likely beat Peru, especially if they're playing at home, just because of the altitude. Then I think they have to travel to Uruguay, where I don't think that they're going to win. But if they do a shock upset on Uruguay and Brazil drop those 2 games, you suddenly see a flip. Brazil have dropped down. Yeah. Right? I'm not saying they're going to get eliminated because, again, 6, Gary. 6.
Yeah. Well, and 1 already guaranteed, obviously, in Argentina.
And
so
1's guaranteed, so that makes it 5.
5 plus a knockout as well. So the top 7,
So,
basically, right?
I mean,
Yeah, top
Brazil
7.
could just boycott all the rest of the games and still probably play
Yeah.
off their way in. Anyway.
No, it's wow. Look at us. Here we go. Wow, in the depths of CONMEBOL leagues and qualifications as well, and Oceania as well. Look at that, the world of soccer that we travel around and we get to go and sort of cover and talk about.
Yeah, I mean, and to just give you an idea of what's happening on the Asian conference, right? So there's 18 countries left. They go through a massive amount of qualifying. You know, where nations like Bhutan play Sri Lanka. It's like, okay, right? And so they're down to 18 after the first 2 rounds. They're now in 3 groups, and so out of those 3 groups, the top 2 win, right? So there's 3 groups of 6, so the top 2 automatically qualify in for the World Cup. And the next 2 third place winners based on points go in, and then that last third place winner gets thrown into that playoff pile.
Okay.
Right. So that's how Asia gets their love. Africa's even worse, Gary. I mean, Africa's completely and utterly insane right now. There are 9 groups, right, with the CAF. Only the winner of the group is guaranteed advancement.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so, and there are some groups that are super tight. I mean, where everybody's sitting within a point of one another. So if you're looking for really spicy competition with a lot on the line, the African games are the ones to watch.
Yeah. And so just
There's
looking
a
through
lot
that
happening there.
Yeah, there is. Wow, that's interesting. I was just looking at the Asian one as well, right? And just looking through, right? So you've got Iran leading the leading Group A by a good sort of comfortable margin as well.
That makes
total
sense. That completely tracks.
Iran have always good. Well, I remember seeing Iran
good.
at Iran are solid. Yeah, Iran. I remember seeing England in Qatar. That was a really fun game. Hey, that was really fascinating. So Iran will go there. You've got South Korea leading the other group as well, which should be good. You've got Iraq in second place. I'm just thinking, just from a political perspective, all of these countries potentially coming to the US to go and play in a World Cup as well, right? This could be really fun. And then China, unfortunately, look like they're bottom of Group C. China aren't going to be getting out of that anytime soon. By the looks of it as well.
They are not. They have not produced an effectively decent men's team in years.
Yeah. So
you'd think it would happen.
Not happening, not for them. They focus more on the athletics and other sporting events as well. And then also, just to make it even more spicy, you've got North Korea, who are again at the bottom of Group A, so they're not getting through as well.
Yeah, but let's really talk about Group C though, Gary, because Japan's running away with it. They are clear by 9. They're 9 points clear. That's 3 wins.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
Australia is sitting in second place. They have 4 draws. Right? They have 7 points. The next 4 teams in their group all have 6.
Yeah.
Which means wide open, baby. Wide open. Including Indonesia, who I am shocked by, because Indonesia has never had a good team. Right? And full disclosure, there is a on my son's club, there is a youth international who plays for the Indonesian national team. So
wow,
it's but yeah, because Indonesia in 2023 allowed for the first time foreign-born children of Indonesian parentage to qualify for their national team. Prior to that, you had to be an Indonesian citizen and live in Indonesia.
Okay, wow. So they've opened up
and that suddenly opened it up.
Opens it up,
to Dutch kids of Indonesian descent, to American kids of Indonesian descent, to anybody of Indonesian descent. And wow, it's completely transformed the way that their program works. By the way, I hear India might be doing the same thing starting in 2025.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, well, they'll have a big catchment pool all of a sudden.
You better believe that it's going to spike India's prospects in these international competitions.
Oh, yeah, it would as well. Yeah. All of Americans playing soccer, all in Europe as well, in the UK as well. There would be
all in England and Scotland and Wales.
Yeah, you get all of those guys, right? Yeah, it's interesting. They did this in in rugby is really prevalent with this as well, right? Where they'll go and again, you don't even have to have parents, and you just have to go and live in the country for a minimum number of years. I think it's like 2 or 3 years, and then you qualify for a passport. And so you have countries like Scotland going and like, just hoovering up all these like South Africans who are not going to get into the national team and basically say, come and play for Scotland because your level's so high. And then it got to the point where I think they had a team fielded like 60% was sort of like, South Africans versus, the other 40% were actual Scottish. So there's a balancing element here as well that the federations had to step in and sort of put some more rules and parameters around this. But interesting. Qooligan, honestly, I came into this thinking, what the hell are we going to talk about with all of these competitions? And here we are 40 minutes in deep, and we've been covered the US Open Cup, CONMEBOL, AFC, African Cup, and also as well. And then there's still, we haven't even touched on the MLS as well, but we are going to give that.
It just goes to show that if you pick your head up out of the myopic focus that seems to dominate the sport about Champions League and this, that, and the other thing, there's a whole world out there that is just as passionate about their locality of the sport as the Barcelona Real fans, as the London fans are for their teams and everything else. You just gotta look for it.
Yeah, well,
And
that's
there
what
it
we're
is.
looking to do, right?
What makes the beautiful game so beautiful.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and so passionate as well. Wonderful. Well, Qooligan, as always, bouncing around the world of soccer with you as well. Fun as always.
Truly global podcast today.
Until next time, I'll speak to you later. Thank you.
Peace.